All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you. It is 9 minutes with me here on IGTV, YouTube, and Facebook. Be sure to hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. You can also download and subscribe to my podcast, available on 11 platforms through Anchor, including Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. While you're there, download, subscribe, and leave some feedback, and of course, a 5-star review. I want to concentrate here on this video brought to you by the Brewerton Diner and the Allen Angus Pub, as well as Timberbanks Golf Club, the only Nicklaus design in New York State. I want to focus in on this disaster that we saw last night from Syracuse basketball. You know, it's funny. People were hitting me on Twitter during the game, and they're like, looks like they don't care. Looks like they don't have the wherewithal. It looks like they never got off the plane. Yeah, every year, if you notice, this happens to Syracuse a couple times a year where they literally look completely and utterly lost, like they've never played basketball before. They got housed by Florida State, came back and won at home against Boston College, a game they had to have. But then this was a road contest right after the fact, in which stunned me the most wasn't necessarily how they looked, but it was that they looked that way on the road because this year they've been great on the road. This team has been incredible road warriors for the most part. Remember, they've won at Cameron and they've won at Ohio State. Those are two incredible wins for Syracuse. Last night they went to NC State and they looked like they just started learning how to play basketball a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, effort was a problem, and Syracuse was so god-awful offensively. They really just flat out, whether they were guarded or not, couldn't make anything. And I know it's cliched. I know Jim Boeheim's the first guy to get up on the podium and say this, but it's always about making shots. If you're making shots, you're in a way better position to win. It's super cliched. It's overused. We use it till the cows, until the cows come home. The reality is it's true. And Syracuse was horrendous. I mean, they were 35% from the floor, 20% from three. And can we add this into the equation? Syracuse lost this game by 15 points. This would have been a 2-possession game if they had made more free throws, okay? Let's play devil's advocate that they can't go 22 for 22 from the line. Okay, let's say they go 19 of 22 from the line. Okay, fair. That's still 8 points. That puts you at 66 and NC State at 73. Even those free throws would have gone a long way. Instead, Syracuse shoots 11 of 22 from the foul line. Just completely and utterly unacceptable. And they got beat to the ball as well across the board. And that goes into the effort category. Syracuse 31 rebounds, NC State 42. And here's the funny part. NC State really didn't shoot that great from three. Usually, if you beat Syracuse by double digits, you're killing them from the three-point line, right? I mean, that's the reality because you're able to bob and weave, get in and out, and kick the ball out in the 2-3 zone and make three-point shots. That was not the case for NC State last night. They could not make anything. 0 for 3, C.J. Bryce. 1 for 3, Johnson. 4 for 8, Beverly. He had the best game out of anybody on the Wolfpack. I just thought this game came down to focus, effort, and certainly shots missed on the Syracuse side and shots made overall from the floor. NC State still went 24 of 49. They made them. Syracuse did not. In the star power. The final thing here too is that the star power, came through for NC State. It did not come through for the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse only got 7 points from Tyus Battle, 6 points from Elijah Hughes, and 2 points from O'Shea Brissett. It ain't going to cut it. Frank Howard went 8 for 16 from the floor, 5 for 11 from three. He made all 5 three-pointers for Syracuse. What does that tell you? It tells you that Frank had a solid game with 21 points, but it also tells you that if Frank Howard's your leading scorer, you're up shit creek without a paddle. Syracuse needs to have Tyus Battle, O'Shea Brissett, and Elijah Hughes playing incredible basketball in order to make a Final Four run. That's all there is to it. So this game, I think you kind of, take the piece of paper, right, and you crumple it up and fire it into the trash can and throw it away. It's done. It's over with. Syracuse still has a very good conference record at 8-4, and they're 17-8 overall. Now, what's next for Syracuse? Let's have a look at the schedule, folks. Mid-February here. Happy Valentine's Day. Biggest scam in history. But we've got Louisville, Duke, both home games, at North Carolina, at Wake Forest, Virginia at home, and at Clemson. Okay? That is 6 games left on the schedule. If Syracuse can somehow, some way go, I don't know, 3-3 or 4-2, they can't, no 2-4. That would mean that things get maybe a little too dicey at 19-12, I think. Plus, the black marks of the schedule, those are big. Those are big scars on the schedule. When you look at losing to UConn down in New York, when you take a look at losing to Old Dominion at home and Georgia Tech at home. Now, Syracuse has made up for that, obviously, by beating Duke and Ohio State on the road. But if you think about it, they don't have a lot of other signature wins in the ACC. I know their record's 8-4. I get that. And it's the best conference, in my opinion, in college basketball. But when you look at all the other wins, Notre Dame on the road, yeah, I know every road game you look and say, oh, it's quality. Notre Dame ain't that good this year. They're just really not. I mean, they're lacking a lot. This is one of Mike Bray's worst teams. Clemson, you beat them at home. That win looks pretty good, although Clemson lost last night to Miami. That's a huge loss for the Tigers in terms of their NCAA hopes. You can only hope as a Syracuse fan that Clemson wins more games and then that becomes a quadrant 1 win. That would be inserted in there. Right now, it's probably not. Even though they've had a last couple weeks of pretty good basketball, last night's loss to Miami really hurts them. They beat Virginia Tech over the weekend, but you can't lose to Miami last night if you're on kind of the fringe of making the tournament. Pittsburgh, way down. They got blown out at Vatech. Boston College is meh. They went on the road there. At Pitt, won, and then beat BC at home. Syracuse has 8 wins in the ACC, and really 1 is a power win right now. They need Clemson to get really, really hot and really good, and that's why I think Syracuse really needs to go 3-3, maybe even 4-2 in the last 6 games. 2-4 still even might get them in. I mean, 19-12 with the quadrant 1 losses and wins, quadrant 2 losses and wins. The committee shouldn't look at UB as a bad loss. UB is, I think, a Final Four contender, for Christ's sake, out of the MAC. You got to look at Duke. You got to look at Ohio State. And then you've got the ACC tournament to try and get your shit together if you're Syracuse. What I'm hoping for Syracuse is this. I'm hoping they take care of business against the teams they're supposed to beat, / the coin toss games. That's going to be one of the keys. That's one thing that they've done really well this year. And those 2 games are Wake Forest and Clemson. And then in the other 4 against 4 top 16 teams in America, number 16 Louisville, number 2 Duke, number 8 North Carolina, and number 4 Virginia. From that group, I need 1 win, possibly 2. Now, the good news is Syracuse has 3 of those 4 games at home. I know they've been really good on the road, but to me, late in the year, when Syracuse needs to pick up a huge win, I'd still, every time, rather be inside the Carrier Dome, especially against a team like Virginia. This year, they've been offensively way better than last year, but at any time, they can struggle shooting the basketball. At any time. And the Carrier Dome, we've seen it for, 40 years, that right? 80, 90, 2010, and almost 40 years. Teams go in there and they basically either shoot the lights out or they have a brick fest, right? And Virginia could be that team. So keep an eye on that. Syracuse, I hope that they can beat Louisville. And then if they can beat Virginia even, you go 4-2 in that last stretch. There's no way that they're going to leave Syracuse out of the tournament, winning those clutch games down the stretch, winning at Ohio State, and winning at Duke. I'm Mike Lindsley, 9 Minutes with Me, IGTV, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports and download my podcast, the ML Sports Platter on Apple Podcasts. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.